Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast. And I'm very, very excited.
Yes, well, my pleasure. I tell you what, you've really caught my attention because of the just the amount of heart and compassion that you put into what you do. Last week we had Tyson Sharp talking about heart in business, because I wanted to start this year really strong with how much we care about people, putting heart, putting compassion, putting kindness into the world and into what we do every day. And you really stand out to me as a person who really throws compassion into everything you do to help the people that you serve. So I'm really, really excited to have you on. So thank you very much for giving up some of your time. I'm sure you're still on holidays, are you?
No, I am a little bit. Thanks, Karen. No, it's my pleasure to be here. I am having a little bit of a break, but being on this podcast and talking to you, I'd always make time. And thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You're such a good egg, I tell you what. You really
Try
are.
to be. A little bit naughty sometimes, but that's all right. You got to have
that's
a bit
good.
of an edge.
Yeah, that's the bit I like about you.
Yeah, especially with what I do, you got to have a happy and a bit of a cheeky side.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's, that gives personality, doesn't it? Gives a bit of charm and character when you're trying to do difficult work. And I think that a lot of your work is it's difficult, but you have found an amazing way to deal with stuff. So in the intro I talked about you going into working in the medical field and then sort of moving through uni and then coming into the hospitals, but then moving through oncology and into business. So tell us about your journey and how you came to be where you are now, but starting right back, maybe as a kid. Tell us, did you want to be a doctor?
Yeah, yeah, sure. When I was little, yeah. I always wanted to be in the medical field in some way, shape, or form, right from really telling my mum off when she put my Band-Aid on the wrong way when I was 3. And then when I hit sort of about the age 5, I got a Christmas gift or a birthday gift. It was the game Operation. I'm not sure if you remember it. It's a game with it's technically a patient. It's a board game that makes noises, and you need to be able to put different parts of the body, anatomical parts of the body, back in the right place. And I was absolutely obsessed with this game, and to the point that I wouldn't play it without wearing at that stage, you could get these sort of nurses and doctors outfits, which I got mum and dad or my grandparents bought me. So I had, my hat on, I had my plastic stethoscope around my neck, my little white cape, the red cross that's on the hat. And I just thought I was in the moment, and I was there in the operating theatre, putting the pieces of organs really back into the patient. And what I found is I got really upset when I was playing with people and they would purposely make it buzz, because they'd make it buzz when they hit the edge, or they weren't putting the right piece because it wasn't the right shape in the right space. And that to me wasn't funny. That to me was, no, you're doing it wrong. So I've always had this fascination, I guess, with the human body and with everything being right and being correct. And also, if it wasn't right and correct, then what can I do to make it better? So as I grew up, I used to build lots of things. I was very mum actually thought I might actually been an engineer. I used to watch the Thunderbirds, and mum would keep toilet rolls and string and sticky tape and stickers and stamps, and I'd make these contraptions. So I was quite innovative when I was young as well. And then I used to watch a lot of medical shows, so Quincy, and shows that were based sort of in hospitals, and I was just obsessed. So when I was about 12, 13, I said to mum, I actually want to be a forensic pathologist.
Wow.
And mum looked at me with open eyes and said, oh, I don't know about that. And I said, yeah. I want to do autopsies. I want to be able to find answers. I want to find what's wrong with people
Wow.
and give families and also the person that had passed away
Mm,
closure. And I want to be able to provide a solution. So I was always very solution oriented.
mm.
And mum said to me, Karen, you'll love this. I think you might be better when you can actually talk to someone. And because I love talking. And I said, well, I can
Yeah.
still talk. I can still talk to people who aren't alive. And she
Yeah.
said, yeah, but you like to have a conversation. And I said, yeah, that's true. I do like reciprocating, and, having reciprocation and talking and having someone talk back to me. So then I thought, right, okay, so I might actually work in the medical field with people who are actually alive. And then I thought about the industries and where I would like to specialize. And this is at a really young age. And, mum and I talked about it and dad too, but, dad being a typical dad, do whatever you want. He knew I was a bright kid. So, just decide what you want. And I said, look, I think I might go into an area where I find there is no closure. There are no answers. Um, and there is no cure. And of course, that turned into being oncology.
Mm,
And that's exactly what I did. And I loved it. I still love it, even in the business that I do now. And it is, I like to think that I have achieved a lot in the industry and hopefully have made a difference, especially to, people's lives and families. And especially coming out of university and specializing in pediatric oncology, which is really the
mm.
toughest out of the lot.
Wow. And so how did you cope? Like you're dealing with, you would have come, did you come straight out of uni into your oncology?
I
Straight out into
did.
that?
So without, I don't have tickets on myself for anyone who is listening. That is not the case.
I can see
I
them.
did
No.
I did accelerate through high school. So I started university quite young, at just turned 16, and
Wow.
happened to shame that I couldn't, go into the uni bar though with all my friends. But anyway, that came later. But I really missed out on that social, initiation, I guess, into university. But that's all right. I've made up for it later. Um, and I also accelerated through university. So I did qualify and graduate quite young. I went straight, because I specialized in oncology, I went straight into oncology within the hospital. When I first started working at Prince of Wales,
Yeah.
I was straight into the oncology department and faced with a choice of whether I wanted to specialize with children only, children and adults. And this also was because Prince of Wales is located in Sydney, in Randwick. It was also, like, from a location perspective, very close to a maximum security prison.
Mm,
So we also had to deal with prisoners that are presented with cancers. And of course, most of them they were men. It was a male maximum security prison that had, cancers that younger guys get. So,
mm,
as a young, oncologist going into that field, having to sort of choose where I wanted to specialize. And, it's hard when you've dealing with someone that has done the wrong thing and has wronged
mm,
someone in a big way, to then have that psychological and that mental capacity as a young doctor to say, well, I actually want to save your life,
mm,
because deep down it's like, well, no, you don't deserve it, and I
mm.
deserve to be able to help someone else, but you can't do that.
Yeah.
They deserve the best care also. So there was a lot of struggle initially. I still loved it. I saw it as a challenge, to be
Mm,
honest, but what I was absolutely taken aback by, and just it just drew me in, and I was compelled by helping children and their families, and so I ended up starting with pediatric oncology.
wow. And that would have been, so there's a couple of things in that. You would have been very, very young. That was one thing. And I'm
Yes.
not saying you're very, very old now, but it was a while ago. Like,
It
medicine
was.
medicine advances very quickly, you know,
Yep.
every decade, or, you know, so that we're talking, you know, I don't know, 3 decades ago, or two, whatever, 25, 30 years ago.
Yep.
And so,
25. Yeah. It was in the 90s.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so
So,
the middle to late 90s.
yeah, so
Yep. So
25
that
years ago.
25 years
So,
ago. And medicine has, especially in oncology, but also, I mean, all medicine, I mean, look at genetics now and genomics and, DNA sequencing and everything that's happening there.
mm,
None of that was around in any kind of medicine, but oncology in particular, because it is a terminal illness in most instances, even a benign lesion causes death, because a lot of benign lesions, and benign lesions are those that aren't cancerous,
mm,
they grow quite quickly and have detrimental effects on other areas of the body and other
mm,
organs, and press on nerves and veins and arteries, and especially within the brain. There's
yeah,
lots of goodies in our heads that can easily be squashed and manipulated to a point where we lose our function, we lose our speech, we
yeah,
lose our ability to walk and talk, and this is from a non-malignant lesion. So
mm,
it's important that and I think in the face of medicine, it was important that there was big discoveries in oncology, because of the fact that most people that were diagnosed were facing back then an imminent death.
mm,
And it's come such a long way, and to the point now that with a lot of cancers, people just live their normal lives. Their quality of life is great. Yeah, they've been diagnosed with cancer. They've had some treatment. It's been a little bit of a tough journey. No sort of medical journey when you have a disposition is
mm,
easy. But they're still alive, and they're still spending time with their families, watching their families grow, watching themselves grow and develop as well, and almost dying of another condition,
mm.
instead of, rather than of. So that's fantastic.
Mm. But I agree. But back then, when you're saying, you know, most people would die, we're talking about kids dying,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
and as I said, you know, you would have been young, like, because you know, you come out of uni young and you're
Yep.
straight into dealing with kids. I can't even. I know, you know, I feel sick, and I feel like bursting into tears, you know, thinking
Yeah.
about little kids dying, like, and I'm an adult who's learnt a lot of coping skills, you know, over time. But as a young person coming in your 20s, you know, you haven't had that experience to come up with all these coping skills. So how did you manage um being around that, and the trauma of the families, and the I know the kids, most of them are real tough little nuts. You know, I've seen them and they seem to manage, but the families are going through. You must have taken that home, and I mean, that must have been
Yeah, I
terrible.
did, Karen. I did. Yeah, and it's hard. So, and you're right. So, prognosis back then for childhood cancers was almost zero. Um, Most of them did pass away. So I guess the youngest child that I treated was 6 months. So
Mm,
these
wow.
are babies, and these are babies that are born with a condition, up to about 18 years. And it is hard dealing with the families.
Mm,
Also, when the children become sort of school age, having to deal with the child from a psychology point of view, where not only are you trying to help them get through their disease and
mm,
help them survive and give them the tools to live their life as best as possible, but they're there, and the parents and the support of the parents and the friends is vital. They also need help. But also then going to school and being teased because you're
mm,
having chemotherapy and you've lost your hair,
mm,
and then they coming back to us the next day saying, I don't want to have any more treatment, I don't want any more chemo because it's making me look like this and I'm getting picked on. And
mm,
it breaks your heart. And I used to go home and cry. And I was young, and I was almost, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true that I wasn't mature enough to deal psychologically with that kind of trauma that I
mm,
was being exposed to on a daily basis. And also living a life of being the expert. They look at you as you're going to save my child's
Mm.
life, or the
Yeah.
child, you're going to make me better. And so there's this expectation. And Karen, you know what I'm like. I have massive expectations of myself, let
Yeah.
alone the expectations that others put on me. So
Yeah.
that itself was a big burden. So going home, it's a fine line. You can't become hardened, because you can't be someone that loses that vulnerability and that sensitivity to the
Mm.
patients, but at the same time, it takes its toll. So my mum was really good at supporting me. She understood everything that I was going through. My dad also, but mums are mums,
Mm.
and from a emotional and sensitivity point of view, mum used to listen to what I had to say. She would just let me talk. She would let me cry. She would offer advice. And she wasn't qualified to do this, but she was my mum, and she offered some awesome advice and support. The other thing I did, knowing that I had mum there and had that support from a verbal understanding, was great, but also removing myself and giving myself some downtime and allowing myself to be me and decompress and do the things that I really love.
Mm.
I am a mathematical person. So, being in medicine and being in the scientific area, you're a mathematical person. So I loved, building things. I loved
Mm.
getting tools and getting pieces almost like Lego. And I had a Meccano set that I used to take out. It still used to keep me mentally stimulated, because I
Mm.
was achieving something and there'd be, an outcome at the end. But
Yeah.
when you're trying to build something, and when you have building blocks and you are trying to figure out strategically where they need to go, it does actually make you switch off. And that's
Mm.
exactly what I needed. I still needed to be stimulated. I still needed to be able to feel that I had purpose, but without thinking of all the sadness and the trauma that my work brought me, even though it brought me much joy also.
Mm.
So being able to switch off. I also love fashion. I still do.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
I
I know.
I love fashion. I love, being sort of quite unique in the way that
Yeah.
I am, and quirky, and that also being creative. In oncology and in medicine, you do need to be creative. It's not, black and white medicine. There is a creative side and a creative attribute to that kind of science, and
Mm.
that I took away into clothing and into makeup. And I wasn't a real girly girl at all, not by any means, but I just love putting prints together with prints and laces with frills, and being able to manipulate clothing and textures
Mm.
and create something. And so I also did that, which I love, and to this day I still do it, even with the high pressures of my work now.
Mm. I love what you're saying there too about, in the medical field, you have to be creative. And how true is that? Because as we were talking earlier, all these advances that have happened in the medical field, and it's only because, and I see, your logo is think outside the box, your catchphrase, and it's so important, because we wouldn't, if it wasn't for people being creative, thinking outside the box, and asking what if, we wouldn't have all these advances in medication in the medical field, so it's necessary. Like, people
Yeah,
really, otherwise we're
absolutely.
just following black and white guidelines forever and nothing
That's
changes,
right. You're 100% correct. I couldn't agree more.
Mm.
I tell, so with in the business that I have now, and I teach a lot of this. Um, and you're right. My sort of logo and mantra is think outside the box, because all the good stuff happens outside the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
Everyone is within a box, or within a structure, so to speak. I mean, that's just a metaphor.
Mm.
And that's where you play it safe.
Yeah.
But being creative, especially in medicine and technology, innovation comes from thinking outside the box. And
Yeah.
I always say that all the good stuff happens on the outside, all the
Mm.
peripheral, the thought leadership and just ideas happen in the fog on the around
Yeah.
around the box. And if you can get those ideas or bring those ideas to fruition, that's when you start making advances in medicine. You hear about breakthroughs, you
Mm.
hear about areas that would never ever have been tackled before, or
Yeah.
areas that would have never been brought to someone's attention and dealt with, and or solved. And that happens by thinking peripherally and
I
thinking
agree.
outside and being creative. And it's not even just in the medical and technology
No.
world, but it's in all different areas of
Mm.
business and all different industries as well. But in particular, now of course this is the area that I know, it is happening. And what I'm finding too with COVID and what's happened during the crisis, and we are still in the midst of it, but we are
Mm.
coping the best that we can, is people are starting to put their thinking caps on,
Yep.
and they are starting to think outside the box and go, well, actually, and this has got nothing to do with the COVID vaccination or vaccine, this is purely thinking, what about if I come up with an idea like this? And what about if I, you know, um, try and implement something like this? And,
Yeah.
there's a great quote that says, there are ideas are a dime a dozen,
Yeah.
and that's, people within a box that are thinking about ideas, but it's those that are implemented, or
Yeah.
those, being about to get off the bench, those
Mm.
people that actually get off the bench and implement
Mm.
is where great purpose and value and achievement is.
Yeah.
And that's what I find has happened. And that's what's continually happening in technology.
Mm. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's the action part that's, we have to be able to dream. We have to find space to dream, which is the creativity bit, but we also have to actually implement it. And when you're saying that, I do work with leadership groups and about thinking outside the box. You're just thinking differently, because it's so easy to be a sheep. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but, you're getting information put in front of you all the time, and it's very easy to soak it up and to, follow that path of other people's information. But and I do with them this visualization, to visualize how life could look, and some of the things that come of it are just incredible. And people say, I would never have thought of that. I never thought about this for my life at
Yeah.
all. And yet it's the one thing that is like, my God, I would be so happy if I was doing this, and it's just a shame I suppose it's the education system too. It's taught us what to think, so we follow the path of what to think, and rather than how to think. And I think that's a shame. But
That's right. And I think we've also become a little bit lazy, although that's
yeah.
changed really in the last 6 to 8 months, where we enjoy being spoon-fed information and
Mm.
we actually just want to gather information. There is an expert out there that has it. Yeah, that will do. I'm not
Yep.
going to think about it because it can't be bothered, or there's something else I've got to do and I don't need to because someone else has done it.
Yep.
And we have become quite complacent and a little bit lazy.
Yep.
However, now with the innovation, transformation and explosion, really,
Mm.
people have decided, well, actually it's boring being lazy and it's boring just being spoon fed.
Yep.
And I actually have got some really good ideas and I wonder where I can go with these,
Yep. Yep.
and I wonder what I can do.
Yep.
Mightn't have thought about it before, but the universe has opened all these doors now,
Yep.
and it's a matter of people, yeah, we're all scared and we're all hesitant, and we all, we've got our inner critics that try and hold us
Yep.
back. But it's, I actually wrote an article on this, stepping through that door,
Yep.
because unless you do, you don't know what's on the other side.
Yep.
And that's how, science and medicine and other, in industry networks have grown and expanded, because someone has been creative, taken the risk and stepped straight through that door.
Yep. Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's this whole business about, but someone else has already done it. Somebody else has written about that. Some other expert has already given us the data on that. But in a way, we discredit our own knowledge or our own thoughts or our own creativity or our own ideas. And we're like, no one's going to listen to me because I'm an expert has already said something, but that person wasn't an expert in the first place. And there's no reason
Exactly.
why. Like, I think that it's the new ideas, the breakthroughs, your creative wow, what ifs, that make the
Yeah.
difference in the world. They really do. Put it out there and see what happens. And it might fail, but who cares? I know you don't like failure. I'm a better friend of failure than what you are. I know
Yeah, I'm
that,
not
but
good with
no, I
failure.
know.
Yeah, but failure is okay. Failure is okay. I find it difficult. It is. It
Yeah,
is.
I
But
find
you
it
know what?
difficult
With
too,
those
but
experts that you were saying,
mm,
they weren't experts.
that's
It
right.
took drive, ambition, and thinking clearly. And someone doesn't become an expert without failing,
That
because you
that's right.
learn some awesome lessons from
Mm,
from failing. So I I've recently said, we're taught that failing is bad, because when we go to school, you get an F on
yep.
your paper. You're in trouble by the teachers. You get sent to the principal's office. Your mum and dad are upset with you. So we've been trained to think that when you fail, it's negative, and you are, you're never going to amount to anything. It's almost comes to that. That's actually wrong, and unfortunately, that's
Mm,
been instilled in us since we were little.
yeah.
But it's not. We learn, okay, we got in trouble, but you learn, okay, what didn't I do right? What do I need to do better? Where do I need to improve?
Mm,
So those failings, and you're right, I do struggle, but I've learned that you can't be good at everything. And
yeah.
to be better, you need to fail. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
I know, and there's so many great stories out there, isn't there? Like Michael Jordan being kicked off the basketball team, and Oprah being told she's no good for TV. I mean, there's just endless stories about that kind of stuff. But and then they still make it through. It's persistence, it's courage, all of those things just get you through. But yeah, I love it. Well, yeah, so you did the pediatric oncology for 7 years. That is a long time to go through that, and that's but I love your idea about coping. I know you're saying that you were probably maturely young, to manage that kind of trauma. But the ideas you come up with, building stuff, and doing puzzles and all that kind of stuff. That's so. I think a lot of people listening to this can take that away. It's not just about oncology and sick kids. It's, I think, any kind of stress. That we all face, and it's been particularly stressful last year. And I'm sure a lot of people are quite hopeful that 2021 is going to be different, but I think it's going to be exactly the same unless we shift our attitude. I think it's all about how we think. And I think if with coping strategies, we do get through better. And I think what you've given there are fantastic coping strategies, just to for any area of life. I think, yeah, I love it. So
No, that's
after
great. And
your
yeah, you're right. This year, a lot of people have said, and it is a little bit concerning. A lot of people have said, "Oh, I can't wait till 2020, is over, and we hit 2021, and
mm,
everything's going to be different. It's going to go back to normal."
yep. Yep.
Unfortunately, it's not. So we just need to embrace that, and it's it's a different way. And I'm not going to say it's the new normal, because everyone says it's a new normal, but it's just a
Mm,
different way of thinking. It
yep.
is allowing us opportunity. It's allowing us
Yep.
to be creative.
Yep.
Also, it's given us opportunity to meet people that we would have never met before.
Like you and I.
Yes, absolutely. And I wouldn't change that for the world.
Neither would I. Yeah.
And there, you've got to look at all the goodness that
Yep.
has come from this. And I call it that we're all grieving, that we're all going through a grieving process through what's happened
Mm,
in 2020, whether it is a family member that's passed away, or overseas, not being able to go overseas and see family,
mm,
or see, family that are sick, whether it's COVID or not, financial
mm.
problems, emotional, psychological, employment. I mean, the list goes on. So
Yep.
we're all grieving in some way,
Mm,
including myself. But it's how we deal with that, and the support we have around us, and
yep.
the outlook.
Mm,
And I, sometimes get a little bit down in the dumps, as everybody does, but I
mm,
look at what I've got, and look at what I actually have achieved, and the opportunity that has opened up for me during 2020, and,
mm.
in the midst of a pandemic. Who would have thought that you and I met, Karen? Who would have
Yeah.
thought that I would have launched into, this business, and taken it where it is? Who would have thought that medicine would have accelerated in a rate of knots?
Yep.
There's been articles that have published, the technology expanse. We are now
Mm.
5 years in advance of where we would have been because of the limitations, and people also embracing that and being
Yeah.
able to make things work, being able to communicate in one way or another, having, Zoom nights, having drinks over Zoom on a Friday
Yeah.
night, and virtual coffee chats, and,
Yeah.
lots of meetings over Zoom with people that you would have never, ever engaged with. So, there's a lot of good also that's come out of it. And I think people need to not be too concerned with things in 2021 that haven't changed the way that you've wanted,
Yeah.
or been a little bit disappointed that, there isn't a dramatic go back to the way it
Mm.
was, and have that control. Let's just go with it,
Yeah. I agree.
and embrace it, and let's see where it takes us, because so
Yeah.
far it's actually not hasn't been too bad.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And the grieving, I agree. I've grieved over certain things that have changed, and it's kind of like, we came to a screeching halt, like that record scratch, just
Yeah,
suddenly
you
there.
sure did.
But it's,
Yeah.
it's, and the problem with humans is, our negative bias, and we focus on the gap, there's, we focus on what we're lacking, what we've lost, anyway, whatever it is, the gap. And we just do it. And I've done it. I know better. I know I shouldn't, but I still do it. We all default back to that. But it's, if we can focus on, if we really sit down and took stock of what we gained over the last 12 months, the list is incredible. Just like you're saying, the list is amazing. My list is massive. And yet, isn't it funny though, even though the list is massive, we still find ourselves focusing on that bloody gap.
Yeah,
I was yesterday, I said to Nikki,
we
we
do.
sit down, we need to talk. I
Yeah.
said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this gap? And we kept saying to each other, we shouldn't be saying this, we shouldn't be saying, but we kept saying it.
Yep.
It's kind of, we shouldn't be saying it,
Yep.
but we
That's
kept
right.
having the conversation. And it's even when you know better, you still do it. But then I said, oh God, just forget it. We're just got to get up. We've got our mantra this year is what the hell, just do it anyway, and we're just got to
Yeah.
get up. But you do find yourself getting down in the dumps and, moping around. And but anyway, now, so we need to keep talking about you, because it's very, and like you said, you launched your business last year. But before we get into that, because I want to talk about how you got to that. So you did your 7 years with the kids in pediatric oncology, and then what happened then? I think, for memory, you got offered an opportunity to work in a bigger business with technological equipment.
Yeah, so I continued at Prince of Wales. Yeah, specialised for 7 years with the kiddies, and I then was also towards the end of that also working with adults and adult patients, and I then moved over to Liverpool Cancer Centre as deputy director, and looked at sort of new technologies for treating different types of cancers.
Yeah.
So Liverpool Cancer Centre had different tools and different machinery to be able to do different things. And this is what I always say to departments and businesses that want to achieve more, and they get frustrated, is that you're actually only as good as the knowledge you have and the tools that you have. And if you need more resources, and if you need other expertise, then you need to go and find that.
Mm.
And moving from Prince of Wales to Liverpool was great. It was a totally different demographic, different group of patients, no children at all. But I found that I was still limited. There was so much more that I could do. And I had been networking, and again, as you know, I love talking, with some industry partners. And I actually got offered a position with quite a large distributor in the medical device industry that wanted someone, well, they wanted someone who had the scientific, medical, and sort of technical background
Mm.
and clinical background, and put that into a business environment, and to be able to understand new treatments and help hospitals, departments, clinics be able to implement these new technologies for better patient care.
Mm.
And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity, because now I'm not only limited by my tools, because I have everything at my fingertips.
Mm.
So I we had partnered with businesses overseas. So I was in the US quite a bit, in Europe quite a bit, and basically was able to research and get my hands on anything I wanted, because I was now in industry
Mm.
and in that commercial world. So I was able to look at what was available and say, hey, we need this here in Australia. Actually, it was ANZ. I actually looked after Australia and New Zealand, all of oncology for Australia and New Zealand, and
Wow.
let's give it a go. And so within those partnerships came, deals and contracts, and very ethical, because I am a very ethical person, and was able to implement and innovate some technology that never ever would have made it. And
Mm.
we now were able to treat patients differently. We were able to treat prostate patients in particularly with a more focused dose, and limit the amount of radiation that went to other areas of the body, breast cancer, brain tumors, and
Mm.
that was almost an explosion in technology and innovation. And I was with them for about 16 years. I
Wow.
absolutely loved it. I did a lot of training in Southeast Asia as well, and then became a guest lecturer. And I've been lecturing for a long, long time in both Australia and New Zealand on medical students, engineers, medical physicists, nurses, anyone really in the technology space, and
Yeah.
what's out there, what
Wow.
other areas there are for them to dive into, even if they're not sure of where they want to go. There are all these options, and even expose them to some of these technologies and some of the machinery and some of the types of patients that they may see when they do their clinical studies and go out on prac, so they can
Mm.
actually invest properly in their education and in their pathway of where they want to go. And I
Mm.
love doing that. I
Yeah.
love speaking. I love lecturing, and also training, and being able to give people information. For me, it's really important, and it always has been, to share information. If you
Mm.
have knowledge, I mean, a lot of people use it against people
Mm.
and say, well, I've
Yep.
got the information, I'll keep it to myself
Yep.
because that gives me an advantage. But it doesn't.
No.
Yeah,
No.
it doesn't at all. Share the knowledge. You're still going to be the expert.
Mm.
People are still going to come to you for the answers, but you've been able to develop
Empower.
others and
Yeah.
give them ideas and
Mm.
confidence, and also an area of exploration that they wouldn't have thought of before.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. I think that the stuff you do with the lecturing, in unis and other places, that's got to be invaluable, because often, and I used to be a teacher, of disability, in a TAFE, and so you'd only get, and it's not until people are out in the field or working, like I still had hands on in the field, when I was teaching. I think that stuff is so damn important, because you're bringing real life stuff into an area where they're not seeing real life stuff. And I think that that's amazingly valuable. It's invaluable, that sort of stuff. And so you did that, and then so is it only last year that you set up your consulting? I remember you're putting your logo up, and guess what? I've got a new logo, and I loved it, and it's a
Yeah.
beautiful logo. It's so
Yeah.
you, but so it's only the last year that you've been doing that, and it's
Yeah,
really
so I
exciting.
moved from the company that I was with. I actually moved to a very large corporate organization in oncology, actually the largest oncology organization worldwide. They're
Yeah.
American-based company. And I found, for me, it's well, being a director and then stepping into a CEO or MD role, I found being removed from the clinic and the technology just wasn't my thing. I found that there were so many gaps
Mm.
between what people know and what they need to know.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to work on. Being in this big organization didn't allow me to do that. So I actually started my business back in 2018, but didn't have an opportunity to really explode because I was always on planes.
Yeah.
I was, working endless hours up in the middle of the night doing, having meetings and webinars with the States and with Europe, and my responsibility was to the corporate organization. So that sort of took a back step, but I really, really wanted to give it a go because I could see what was happening in the industry. And this is not just in oncology. This is in sort of all technology, including life sciences, health tech, biotech, pharma, where that gap and that skills gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I decided to give the big corporate job a miss. I decided to leave and concentrate on something that I really loved. I've always wanted to do it and put my heart and soul into everything, but I really wanted to make a difference. And I restructured the business in a certain way. Funnily enough, it was a certain way until I actually did your off the bench workshop when we first met ages and ages ago, that I actually repositioned the business based on that. And from there is where I now am really starting to get a lot of influential companies that are coming to me for programs and frameworks and systems to be able to, as we say, bridge the gap between technology and business. So what I've found is that there's a lot of really experienced medical technical scientists within a company. They come up with these great ideas and they, implement the blueprints and they develop and manufacture a fantastic product. And that's at one end of the spectrum. And the other end of the spectrum, you've got, business executives that know how to run a business. Sometimes they don't, but, mostly they do. And they're, finance based or, management based and corporate based, and really don't understand the goodness and that gold nugget that they're sitting on of technology that their people have developed, and they don't know what to do with it. And so you've got this great product that can't be commercialized or get to market, and you've got these executives that are looking at revenue of a business and saying, well, why can't we sell it? But there's just no sort of meshing in between. And having both that clinical and that business experience is where we come in to be able to join both ends with certain processes and frameworks and a lot of behavioral work as well. So we make sure that these fantastic products that have been developed are getting to the right people. They are getting to the right businesses, to the customer, to the consumer, and ultimately to the patients that really need it. Now, when I first decided to do this, I thought I'm either crazy, which that would surprise me, or a genius, because no one in my industry has ever done this. So it was either people have done it and tried it and it hasn't worked, or no one's really thought about it. And what I'm discovering is no one's really thought about it, or they've had the experience to be able to do it. So I'm trying to make a really big difference here if I can. And that's really important. That's how I end up developing the business and growing the business. And my logo, it is a circle because I'm very geometric, and that also comes from being in medicine. And I find that being a circle, it's a never ending course of innovation and research and development. There's sort of dots on the inside of the big circle, because every now and then we have to stop and pause. Every now and then we come up against something that we haven't expected, or we've got an obstacle. So, but then we move on to the next step. And that's where the logo came from.
Oh, and I love it. I love it. And I love that you're saying, well, you were saying, you're genius or no one's ever, or you're stupid, but then saying that no one's ever thought of it. No, and I'm sitting there going, oh, fantastic. But then the other part of me said, oh, wait a minute, that's not fantastic. It's like, it's fantastic for you, but it's kind of like, wow, what a shame. What a shame that that's been such a big gap for such a long time, but I think it's bloody wonderful what you're doing. Did you, when you decided to really quit the corporate world and launch into that, did you come up against fears or, oh shit, what if I fail? Oh, what if this doesn't work? Is this going to affect my reputation in the medical world? were you faced with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. In many ways, in many forms. I was petrified,
Mm,
absolutely petrified. Also because basically I've jumped off the cliff here,
yeah.
being in industry and corporate for such a long time and enjoying it.
Mm,
But I did get to a point where I felt that I wasn't at my best,
mm,
and for me, I was almost disappointing myself.
mm,
So, and I could see this need, and a lot of it is a recognized need, but in some aspects, it's an unrecognized need for a lot of businesses too.
mm.
And I had support of family and friends that have known that I've wanted to do this for so long. So they sort of gave me a bit of encouragement. But I actually thought, oh my gosh, and sometimes I still do. What am I doing? What decision have I made? Have I made the right decision? Am I nuts? I am nuts. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Why? So one day I'm crazy, the next minute I'm not. It is hard. But
Mm,
when what I found was the turning point for me, and there's a lot to say about this actually, is when I decided, and I sat down with my husband and my family and said, I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to get off the bench. I'm actually going to do this and make this work. And
yeah.
I've got so much passion, dedication, and devotion to this. The minute that my mindset changed from, oh, I don't know, I'm really scared, I don't know what to do, maybe I will, maybe I won't, and sitting on the fence,
Mm,
um, to, yep, let's go for it. And what I actually did is made that following Monday my first day of work at my new job. And having
yeah.
that mindset of, I am now immersed in this business, and I have got people telling me that they need my help, and when can I work with them? So that gives me encouragement, and
Yeah.
I'm totally dedicated. That whole mindset shift,
Mm,
it's a little bit hard to say,
yeah.
just was the absolute turning point. It was a pivot
Yeah.
point. And from there, it's like, you know what, I'm still scared and I'm still a little bit hesitant. And sometimes I think, you know, there's, like I said before, that self,
Mm,
in a critic of, do you really think you're going to
yeah.
pull this off? Well, actually, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I am, because this is a really good cause. It's a really good product, so to speak. It's a good service. It's needed.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that will benefit from it. So that's what keeps me going now.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. And I love that you're saying, when you decide, and I always say this, and it's written on all my, pieces of paper on my workshop forms, that it's you dream it and decide to do it, and then take action. And that deciding to do it, that is more profound. And you've just explained it really well. It's more profound than people think it is. Once you actually decide, the universe does, well, call it the universe, call it whatever the hell you want, but everything starts to line up. Everything starts to line up, and it happens because and I love the word you're using, immerse yourself. Once you actually start to immerse yourself, things do start shifting, and you start noticing, wow, I didn't see that before. I didn't notice that before. And I like also that you're saying about, you still have days where it's like, I am crazy, I'm not crazy, I am crazy, I'm not crazy, because even me, I sort of, I'm always spruiking, get off the bench, do your thing, you're going to love life, and, might as well do it and everything else. But, I'm not for 1 minute not going to say to people that you won't have, days where one day you're up, one day you're down, one day you're up, one day you're down. I have one day I'm up, one day I'm down. Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
you're on
It's a
your
roller coaster,
own.
as they
Yeah,
say. It's a cliche. I hate using cliches
but
because
it's
they're
true.
so in the box and not outside the box. But
Yep.
it is a roller coaster ride. 1 minute you're on a
Yeah.
high, and the next minute you're not. And that is natural.
Mm.
But what I find, it keeps you on your toes. If
Yeah,
you're
it
always
does.
on a high, I think
Yeah.
it would make you complacent.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
wouldn't, you wouldn't grow, you wouldn't develop, you
Mm.
you wouldn't be able to push yourself beyond And I'm not saying just beyond your comfort zone, but I'm talking beyond that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's almost like those downs are a little bit of a kick in the guts. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, actually, it brings you back down to earth. And
Mm,
you need that. You need that
yeah.
reality check, because then empowers you to push yourself further. And
Yeah.
everybody feels it, and I feel it, and you feel it, and it's okay to
Mm.
feel like that. In fact, it's a natural thing, and you should feel that, because it's only going to make you stronger.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think that we as humans, we are scared of the roller coaster. We're scared of the ups and downs, but as it's kind of like when, and I'm not picking, but sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. When people are like, for example, on antidepressants, and it's just kind of like I'm just in a flat kind of mode to keep me stable. Well, that's great, and it's needed for a lot of people, but that sort of state of just this constant state, that there's
Yeah,
some people need
constant
it.
state of
So
melancholy, really. Yeah.
yeah, and now some people need it. So I'm not criticizing that, but what I'm saying is that if you can mentally cope with ups and downs, it there is so much opportunity in it. You learn, you grow, you hurt, and it's the extremes. Oh, I'm so excited, man, I'm hurting, and that all that growth in between there is incredible. And if you can cope with it, do cope with it. Because wow, what you learn from that, and how you grow is I could go on about that for ages, but it's
Your
such a
achievements are escalated when you go
yeah,
from when you are riding that roller coaster. Those
yeah,
highs give you that real sense of achievement and acknowledgement and
yeah,
appreciation. And I think it's really important to appreciate your worth and your value.
yeah,
And we're so quick to say, I'm hopeless at this, or
yes,
I'm
yeah,
no good at this, or why did I even decide to do this, because I just can't do it. Well, actually you can do it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
we all feel that, but when you then overcome that and achieve, and you appreciate, well, actually I did a pretty good job.
yeah, yep. I know, and it's it's often that we fear, well, fear failure, of course, but the fear of people are going to laugh at me, people are going to criticize me, people will reject me if I'm a failure. But that's bullshit, because really, when you think about people gossiping, it's kind of, oh, did you hear about Leanne? I see she failed. Oh yeah, terrible. What are you having for dinner tonight? This is how conversations happen. It's like, why would we even care? Because I remember, getting with Nikki, and she said, oh, people are saying this. And I said, Dad, let them go. They'll say it for 2 weeks until the next big thing happens. And then they'll forget about it, and this is what people do. It's kind of like you're the highlight for 2 minutes, and then the next thing happens. And then it's kind of like, yeah, you're old news.
You
And
can turn that around too, Karen. If people are talking about you, it's actually a positive thing that you're actually
woohoo!
making an impact.
That's exactly right. Oh, I couldn't
You're
care less.
newsworthy.
Yeah, that's right. I'm really I couldn't care less if people are talking about me. I just think, like it's I couldn't care less, because
Yeah,
it's but
it's
some people do.
pointless.
A lot of people do. I did. I used to care about it, but it's you can't change anything, and you just got to stay in your own lane, and do your thing. Stick with your own lane and just bloody focus on it. But anyway, God, I'm loving this. I could talk to you all bloody day, because I just, you're just I love you. You're a bundle of wisdom. You're a bundle of inspiration. You're so you're wise. It's kind of like when you're talking, it's coming from a real deep place of considered thought. And I
Thanks, Karen.
oh, I love it. And
Thanks.
I know you might argue with me on on
Yeah,
some
yeah,
days. No, I'm just bloody
yeah. No,
ratchet.
not that. Yeah, no. Today's my nuts day. I'm actually
Yeah.
feeling a bit nutty. Yeah.
But no, I love your considered thought. I love that. So, and I think there's been so many pearls of wisdom through this episode. So
I hope so. I really do. And the
yeah,
other
I
thing
think so.
too is, if you feel flat, or if you feel that you need something else, or there's something else in your life, or even look, if you are starting a new business, or wanting to have a look and see what you have, and then what you don't have and what you need,
Yeah.
because you can always learn more. You can
Yeah.
always ask for help.
Yeah.
And there's you we need to understand there's a lot more support around us than what we realize.
I agree. Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Mm.
So, and really, it's not a weakness to say, can you give me a hand, or what do you
Yeah.
think about this? It's actually intelligent and mature and clever,
Yeah.
because you're actually, well, not only are you getting someone else's opinion, but you're exploring different ways to make your own self better.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
It
It
is.
really is.
And you're expanding your knowledge. You're expanding. It's, we're not here to shrink. We're here to grow. And and we can't do it on our own. We absolutely can't do it on our own.
No
And
way. No
it's
way. And who would want to? It's not much fun.
no, it's not. No, COVID's taught us that, hasn't it?
No,
Locked in our
that's
little
right.
boxes.
Yeah. And when we're successful, we want to celebrate with people. And,
Yeah.
and if we are feeling down the dumps, we want someone there to make us a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be by ourselves.
Yeah. No, we're social beings, and we need to, we don't have to be out fluttering around like butterflies, social butterflies, but we do need people around us, and that's all there is to it. And people we trust and people we encounter. And then, another thing too is a lot of people, I've heard this from so many people, that they try to put all their friends in one box. And I think we've got to stop doing that, because we've got one friend for, I'm not a drinker, but we've got one friend for going down the pub with and having a drink with. We've got another friend that we like to go camping with, another friend that we like to sit and have a cup of coffee with or a cup of tea and, talk about stuff. Another friend that we would give a job to, yet we've got tons of friends we'd never give a job to. I think we need to look at our network and say, well, they're all there for different reasons. And you take advantage of that without using people. Just take advantage of
That's
all the
right. I mean,
different things.
diversity in any
Yeah.
walks of life is fantastic.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that your friendships can't be diverse.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You learn different things from different people, and having a cup of coffee with a friend is going to be a different conversation to the drink that you have at the bar with that friend,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
when you go to the gym and with that friend. It's all different conversations, and
Yeah.
you're learning different aspects of life, even though
Mm.
we are adults, and we pretty
Yeah.
we know what we want and what we will. Not everyone knows what they want and what they do, but most of us do.
Yeah.
And we're adults, but we're always learning. Our brains are switched on, they're not switched off. So we're
Yeah.
learning from that diversity is really important. I think a lot of people underestimate that, to be
Mm.
honest.
I do too. And then and a lot of people I know want to have a lot of similar friends, but I don't think that's a good thing. I think we need to really get, the diversity in anything. It's even in your cultures, even in your, your town, even in the, diversity is bloody amazing. But anyway, could talk about that for ages too. You and I could just talk for
Oh, we
ever.
could.
Yeah, I know, and we do. We often do.
Yeah.
We're trying to just keep this to a recorded, time frame.
Yeah.
Time frame. Yeah. Anyway, now I want to ask you. You have sort of hit on a few of these things. Anyway. Oh, actually, before I do, you have got blogs too. What you say you're a writer and a keynote, but writing, is that solely about your business blogs on your website, or is there a book? Are we getting a book soon? Come
I
on.
wish. Now you're putting pressure on me. But my blogs are not just about the business, they're about business in general.
Yeah.
They are about your strategy in business, technology, tools, and tips
Mm.
within business, and also within that the technology world, the changing world as well. And also I have an article there on designing, which I've called Designing Your Career, which is for,
Mm.
I did that earlier in the piece, and that was for people that really were deciding on whether to continue in their line of work because of what had happened with the pandemic, or
Yep.
wanted to change,
Mm.
or had lost their jobs
Mm.
and wanted to think, just to give. And it's not like get off the bench, it was just more it's okay. There are other opportunities,
Mm,
and this is what you can do with these opportunities. So it's more about that. A
that
book, I
sounds
would
good.
love to write a book. I am currently writing some smaller ebooks at the moment, and they aren't just on technology. I do teach a lot of management skills and leadership skills within the
Yep,
programs and the frameworks, a lot of time management skills
yep,
and business strategies
yep,
and ways to grow a business and get the right resources without burnout,
yep.
because it seems
Fantastic.
that we're running around in circles,
Yep.
and this roller coaster that goes up and down, and we never get off it, even to
Mm.
to have a toilet break. It's just constant. So even behavioral and managing your own time and mindset tools as well.
Mm,
And I do quite a bit of mentoring also with CEOs of smaller businesses
yep.
that just need support and guidance in how
Yep.
to manage their business and manage their time.
Fantastic. You're a busy person, but I still want the book.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
you'll have the
ebooks.
book personally signed.
Yeah.
Personally signed. You'll have the first copy.
Yeah, I'm just putting pressure on you, aren't I?
Yeah, that's okay.
I love it. I love
I
it.
wouldn't expect anything different.
I think I've been putting pressure on you since the day I met you. But anyway, come on, come
Love it.
on. Yeah, I love it.
Love it. It's
Uh,
good.
no, you
Keeps
just,
me on my toes. That's
yeah,
what
I
we
know.
need.
Oh, you're a gem. You really are, and
Thanks, Karen.
you're really immersed and really really dynamic, and it's such an inspiration to people. Now, on that subject, and you inspiring people, so this podcast is about inspiring people to get off the bench, as you know, and to do that thing. Now, in your case, you've followed your passion and went out on your own so you could have a bigger impact. What would you say to others that might be a bit too scared to back themselves, even if they think they can make a difference?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is go for it,
Mm,
and you'd be crazy not to. I know that's easier said than done,
yeah.
but I want those people to understand that we all are hesitant. We all worry about whether we're going to fail or not.
Mm,
We all worry that we won't achieve what we expect to achieve, and we have these expectations of ourselves.
mm,
And as I said before, there's these doors and these opportunities that are there. And how do you know that you're not going to
mm.
achieve exactly what you want and more if you don't actually step through that?
Yep.
So you've got to think about, what have you got to lose? You've got this dream that or even an idea that you've always wanted to do, or it might even be an idea that you've just thought of and you've decided, geez, I really, really want to
Mm,
do that. What's stopping you? Nothing's stopping you. And even if you decide down the track that it's not for you, okay, that's fine, but you've given it a go.
yep.
You've given yourself purpose, and you've achieved as much as you possibly can. I'm all for developing. I'm all for learning. I went to Harvard,
Mm,
whilst,
mm,
reigniting the business. I went to Harvard Business and Harvard Medical School. We can actually juggle a lot more than what we realize.
yeah.
And especially if we love it, you need to understand that, if you've got the passion and the desire, and especially if you really want to help people, you'll get it done, and you'll do it. And I encourage everyone and all of you to do so. And I'd be disappointed if you didn't give it a go.
Oh, well, you're putting down the bloody, throwing down the gauntlet, aren't you?
That's right.
Come on, everybody.
Because I know that people have it in them.
So
They
do
just
I.
don't realize it.
Yeah. And when you said there, that's great advice. When you said, even if it doesn't work out, it's great practice. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, wow, you know what, I actually did this, and I did more than I thought I could do, and I do need to shift it a little, because that wasn't quite right. But you've
No, and
already gained
ideas
all those
spin off.
skills. Yeah, they
That's
do.
right.
They
Ideas
do.
spin off from, you might go down one path and go, oh, this is not heading the way that I
Yeah.
really wanted or really liked. But then an idea will spin off from that.
Yeah.
And you go, well, actually, I might take a small portion of what I'm doing here and convert it and reposition it into something, part A into part B.
Yeah.
And I've now come up with C, which is brilliant, which I
Yeah.
never ever would have come to or achieved if I
I
sat
didn't
on the
start.
bench.
Yeah, I agree. And I always say that when I'm teaching it is that have a vision, and the vision is where you're headed to. Because if you don't have a vision, you won't bloody move. You won't go anywhere, But that vision always moves. I've rarely seen that vision sit still for people. As they start to, as you say, get into it, they're like, oh, wait a minute. But it's not until you're into it, that you can start to see a lot of stuff. So, and I forgot to ask you, why did you go to Harvard? Like, I'm not a big university person, so I don't know, but I do hear a lot about Harvard. Is it the best in the world, or why did you go there?
Harvard, wow, what do I say? I'm actually really proud that I'm a Harvard graduate. I worked hard.
Yeah,
So for me, I've always wanted to go to Harvard. Physically though,
yeah,
I've been to Boston a couple of times, and I've been as a visitor to Harvard University. And from the get-go, I've wanted to be a graduate from Harvard. What I did initially is I went to Harvard Business School because I found that there was what I did was corporate finance, because I found that was an area that's I needed help
mm,
moving. And I had a lot of business skills because I've been in business for a long time. I've of course had all the clinical, medical, and scientific skills, but that corporate financial expertise I did not have, and I'm by no means an expert, but I needed a
mm,
clearer understanding of that side of the business, especially I thought, and it turned out to be true, when I'm dealing with bigger businesses and bigger corporations, I want to have an understanding. So
yeah,
that's why I did that. Harvard Medical School, I did genetics, genomics, precision oncology, and therapeutics. For me, genetics and genomics is where all of technology and medicine is going.
mm,
There's been breakthroughs, especially even with the genomics, with COVID testing and DNA
mm,
sequencing. That's the way that we are heading,
yeah,
no matter what, even in any kind of medical industry. And for me, wanting to always have at my fingertips the best tools, I decided that I wanted to get my teeth stuck right into genetics
mm,
and into sequencing, and get a much clearer understanding of where technology was going.
mm.
So that's what I decided to do. And I actually did a couple of modules simultaneously to speed up the process, which was good. I wanted to sort of fast track a little bit, and that's exactly what I
Wow.
did. And I completed that about 6 weeks ago.
Yes, I remember seeing that. You were very excited. I was excited
Yeah,
for you. It's. So I understand. Yeah, I do. It is, and I do know that Harvard has got an exceptional name. It's kind of like, for me as a muso, I want to go to Berkeley, but I've
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
dropped my
yep,
music a bit, and so it's
yep.
kind of dropped off my list a bit. But I understand it's kind of got the same a similar theme to it. But when you do you sleep?
No.
No.
No. And that is literally a one-word answer. Um, I know what you mean, because I'm busy, but I actually am a really bad sleeper, and I'm actually trying to. One of the tools I use, an app that someone recommended to me called Insight Timer,
Yeah.
and to be honest, it's a really boring lady's voice that I think is supposed is supposed to unstimulate
Yeah.
your mind, and that's exactly what I need. So I go to bed, eh,
Wound up. Yeah.
highly like, my
Yeah.
mind, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking. I feel that if I'm not thinking, then I'm wasting time, which is really silly. That's something I need
Mm.
to work on. So I tried this, but then I got bored of it. So yeah, I don't sleep a lot, unfortunately, and I do need to work on that this year, trying to just give my body a rest.
Yeah, it's important. Sleep's so important.
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
lucky because I'm like you. I think all the bloody time. It's just, except I can have a coffee 5 minutes before going to bed, and I hit the pillow and I'm out in 2 minutes, and I'm a great sleeper. So I'm
Jeez,
so
that's
bloody
good. I'm
thankful.
so
Yeah.
jealous.
Yeah, well, I'm thankful. You can be jealous. I'm thankful because, my God, if I didn't sleep, I'd be like, oh my God, the amount of energy I put out from my poor body, I definitely need it. But anyway, this
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful. Now, where can people find you? So
Okay.
website, Insta, Facebook, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
a couple of different places. My website, which is leanneelichconsulting.com. I'm on Instagram, Leanne Elich, Facebook, LinkedIn, Leanne Elich. You just Google Leanne Elich and you'll just pop up here, there, and everywhere. And Twitter also, but mainly, yeah, Insta, LinkedIn, and my website. And yeah, please
Yeah,
feel free to hop on there and send me a message or even a hi. Always
fantastic.
happy to, yeah, to get
Yeah.
to say hello.
And I'll put all that in the show notes, so
Okay,
that people can link on
fabulous.
them and get to you. And yeah, hopefully you'll meet some new people through this, and people get to meet you. And I just I love what you've shared. Absolutely love what you've shared. And it's you're I see you're getting off the bench as just having so much compassion for people and so much desire, to bridge the gap and to make a better world. And you've gotten off the bench in so many different ways, just trying to make a better world for other people. And I admire that deeply. It's so so
Thank you,
special.
Karen. I feel like, in a way, almost cartwheeled off the bench. I, I just, I don't do things in halves, as you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm gonna, get off the bench, then do it with rocket launchers. And I and,
Yeah.
and I think that's a good way to do it, because then you're committed and you're determined.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I loved this podcast. I love speaking to you, and thank you so much for the opportunity. And I could speak all day with you. Easy peasy.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
And I just hope that I've given some people some insight and a little bit of a nudge if they need it. But yeah, I really appreciate your time.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure. I appreciate your time too, and I know that people will have a little nudge. But I really hope that people, particularly, take your bit about just give it a crack, and have the courage to go and do it, and see what happens, and
Yeah,
look at all the people who have done it, and things are working for them. So it
yeah,
can
that's
work.
right.
It's just
We're only going
scary.
up and up and up,
Yep,
like a
exactly.
balloon.
Yeah.
A balloon.
No, we
I
don't
only.
do helium balloons, Leanne. No, no, bad, bad, bad.
Right. Yeah, onwards and upwards. There's so much for us to be thankful for, and there's still so much out there for us to achieve.
Yeah,
So let's do it.
there really is. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, and I'm going to talk to you again anyway, but because I can't help myself. But I'm gonna sign
Excellent.
off this episode. But absolutely love talking to you. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it, and thank you everybody for listening.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Catch you soon.
Okay,
See ya.
thanks. Bye.